Thank you for providing all the details. I'll create a realistic 4-chapter story based in the United States about Mia's transformation journey, written in American English. Each chapter will be approximately 1,100 words, focusing on her emotional and physical journey without any supernatural elements, just authentic human drama. Mia hated her reflection at 270 pounds. Now she owns her power. Chapter 1. Mia Thompson stared at her bathroom mirror, the harsh fluorescent light accentuating every curve she despised. At 270 pounds, her reflection had become her enemy, a daily reminder of the prison she'd built around herself. She quickly turned away, pulling on her oversized black cardigan, her armor against the world's judgment. Today was just another Tuesday in Chicago, the kind of crisp autumn morning that usually energized the city, but for Mia, it was simply another day to survive. Her apartment, a cozy one-bedroom in Wicker Park, was both sanctuary and cage. The walls were adorned with her artwork, vibrant digital illustrations that contrasted sharply with how colorless she felt inside. At 27, Mia had established herself as a respected graphic designer for a boutique advertising agency downtown. Her talent undeniable, even as she shrank from recognition. "Just breathe," she whispered to herself, gathering her portfolio for the morning client meeting. Her work was bold, innovative, everything she wished she could be in person. Instead, she hid behind email communications whenever possible, dreading the moments when she had to present in person, feeling every pair of eyes in the room judging her size rather than her ideas. The L train was crowded as usual. Mia squeezed herself into a corner, making herself as small as possible, an ironic impossibility that never stopped her from trying. She scrolled through Instagram, her thumb pausing over fitness transformation posts, before and after stories that made it all seem so simple, so attainable. She'd started and abandoned countless diets, each failure reinforcing her belief that she was meant to remain invisible. At the office, Mia slipped into her cubicle, grateful for the high partitions that shielded her from casual observation. Her colleague Zoe popped her head over. "Hey, did you hear? The Halston Gallery is looking for new artists for their spring exhibition. It's that exclusive place in River North. You should submit your portfolio." Mia's heart raced, equal parts excitement and terror. The Halston was prestigious, a career-making opportunity, but it would mean standing in a room full of strangers, being seen, being judged. "I don't know, Zoe. My stuff isn't really gallery material," she deflected, despite knowing this wasn't true. Her personal work, a series exploring body image and societal beauty standards through stylized digital art, was her most powerful creation, born from her deepest pain. "That's bullshit, and you know it," Zoe said, her frankness one of the reasons Mia actually maintained this friendship. "Your Reflections series is incredible. Stop hiding." The morning meeting went as expected. Mia presented her designs while trying to make herself invisible, speaking quickly, eyes down, ignoring the beads of sweat forming at her temples. Her boss, Marcus, looked concerned afterward. "Mia, your work is brilliant, but you need to own it. Clients need to feel your confidence in your creations." She nodded, having heard this feedback before. Back at her desk, an email from the Halston Gallery appeared in her inbox, their call for submissions. The deadline was 3 months away, just enough time to talk herself out of it. That evening, her tiny kitchen became a battlefield of emotions. Mia stood before her open refrigerator, the cool air washing over her heated face. Inside was the usual assortment of takeout containers and convenience foods, the fuel for her late-night work sessions and the comfort for her anxiety. She grabbed a container of leftover Chinese food, eating mechanically while scrolling through design blogs. A notification popped up on her phone. Her mother. The familiar mixture of love and dread washed over her. Their weekly calls had become predictable. Subtle inquiries about Mia's weight disguised as concern for her health, updates about relatives who had successfully transformed their bodies, and the inevitable comparison to her younger sister, Alyssa, who had her mother's naturally slim build. "I saw a wonderful nutritionist on Dr. Phil today," her mother began without preamble. "She helps people with food addiction. I could send you her information." Mia closed her eyes, swallowing both food and hurt. "Mom, I'm not addicted to food. I'm busy with work right now. Can we talk about something else?" The conversation shifted to safer topics, but the damage was done. After hanging up, Mia found herself standing before the mirror again, this time fully clothed, studying her face, the one part of herself she still recognized as beautiful, with expressive brown eyes and full lips that occasionally drew compliments. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "I submitted your name to the Halston. They want to see your portfolio. Don't hate me. This is your chance." Panic flooded Mia's system. The gallery, people staring, judging, questions, small talk. Nowhere to hide. Her breathing quickened as she sank to the bathroom floor, the cool tiles against her legs. The thought of standing in a crowded gallery, being introduced as the artist, having to speak about her work, about herself, sent waves of nausea through her body. But beneath the panic, a tiny, persistent voice whispered, "What if? What if this was the opportunity she'd been waiting for? What if the very thing she feared, being seen, was exactly what she needed?" Mia pulled herself up and faced the mirror again. For the first time in years, she forced herself to really look, not just at her body, but at her eyes, the window to the passionate, creative soul she'd been hiding. The exhibition was 3 months away. Not enough time to transform her body, perhaps, but maybe enough to begin transforming something deeper. She picked up her phone and typed a response to Zoe. "I don't hate you. I'm terrified, but I'll send them my portfolio tomorrow." With trembling fingers, she opened her laptop and navigated to her hidden folder of personal artwork, the pieces that revealed her soul, her pain, her truth. If she was going to be seen, really seen, it would be on her terms. The gallery exhibition loomed, like both a threat and a promise on the horizon. 3 months to prepare, 3 months to find the courage to step out of the shadows and into her own light. Chapter 2. The Halston Gallery's email arrived on a Wednesday morning, its presence in Mia's inbox like a bomb waiting to detonate. "We are pleased to inform you that your Reflections series has been selected for our Spring Emerging Artists exhibition." Mia read the words 5 times before their meaning penetrated her defenses. They wanted her work, her deeply personal exploration of body image and self-perception. The exhibition was now exactly 8 weeks away. "Congratulations!" Zoe squealed, hugging Mia in the break room. "This is huge. We need to celebrate." Mia managed a weak smile, her mind already racing ahead to the opening night, imagining herself squeezed into whatever formal attire she could find in her size, sweating under gallery lights, fumbling to explain her art to sophisticated strangers. The thought made her stomach clench. "I need to get in shape before this," she blurted out, immediately regretting the words. It was her automatic response to any public appearance, the belief that she needed to shrink herself to be acceptable. Zoe's expression softened. "You don't need to change anything about yourself to deserve this opportunity, Mia." But that night, alone in her apartment, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that this exhibition represented more than a professional milestone. It was a crossroads. She could continue hiding, using her weight as both shield and excuse, or she could finally confront the disconnect between the confident, powerful woman she portrayed in her art and the person she had become in real life. She opened her laptop and began researching, not crash diets or miracle weight loss solutions as she had so many times before, but approaches to wellness that addressed body and mind together. Something sustainable, something that would fuel her creativity rather than deplete her energy. The next morning, Mia woke before her alarm. Instead of her usual routine, hitting snooze 3 times before dragging herself to the shower, she put on the dusty sneakers from her closet and a pair of stretchy pants that had seen better days. The neighborhood park was quiet at 6:30 a.m., just a few dedicated runners and an elderly couple walking their terrier. Mia felt conspicuous as she began a slow walk around the perimeter, certain that everyone was staring at the fat woman attempting exercise. But after 15 minutes, she realized something. Nobody cared. Everyone was focused on their own movement, their own morning. This simple revelation felt profound. At work, she mentioned her gallery acceptance to Marcus, who responded with genuine enthusiasm. "This could open doors for you, Mia." The creative director at Brennan and Walsh is on the Halston's board. They're always looking for fresh talent. The mention of potential career advancement added another layer of pressure, but also determination. That evening, instead of ordering delivery, Mia visited the farmer's market near her apartment. She wandered through stalls of colorful produce, selecting items that appealed to her senses: the vibrant orange of carrots, the earthy smell of mushrooms, the crisp texture of snap peas. In her kitchen, she channeled the same creativity she brought to her design work, preparing a simple but satisfying meal. 2 weeks into her new routine, morning walks, mindful eating, evening stretching, Mia noticed subtle changes. Not dramatic weight loss, but more energy, clearer skin, and most surprisingly, moments of genuine enjoyment in movement and nourishment rather than shame and restriction. She'd also begun working with a therapist, Dr. Levine, who specialized in body image issues. Their sessions were challenging, excavating years of accumulated pain. "When did you first learn that your body was a problem to be solved?" Dr. Levine asked during their third session. The question unlocked a flood of memories. Her mother's constant dieting, a middle school crush who called her the fat girl, college years spent avoiding photos and declining invitations to pool parties, years of absorbing the message that her worth was inversely proportional to her size. "I want to reframe how we approach the next 6 weeks," Dr. Levine suggested. "What if, instead of preparing for this exhibition by trying to make yourself smaller, you focused on making your presence more powerful, on owning the space you occupy?" The concept was foreign to Mia, who had spent her adult life trying to minimize her presence, but it resonated with something deep within her, the voice of her authentic self that she had been silencing with shame. That weekend, Mia did something she'd been avoiding for years. She called her friend Tasha, a photographer she'd met in college but had gradually distanced herself from as her weight increased. "I need professional photographs for the exhibition," she explained. "Would you be willing to do a session with me?" They met at Tasha's studio, where Mia arrived with a suitcase of clothing options, all black, all concealing. "What kind of mood are we going for?" Tasha asked, setting up her equipment. Mia hesitated. "I've always hidden in my photos. I want to try something different, something visible." Tasha's eyes lit up. "I know exactly what to do." The photo session became unexpectedly therapeutic. At first, Mia was stiff, self-conscious, but Tasha's direction and encouragement gradually broke through her defenses. By the end, Mia found herself in poses she never would have attempted. Strong, open, unapologetic. When Tasha showed her the preliminary shots on the camera display, Mia's breath caught. The woman in those images wasn't hiding or apologizing. She was commanding attention, her gaze direct, her presence undeniable. "That's the real you," Tasha said softly. "That's always been you." The following week, Mia joined a community center art class, not to participate, but to teach a workshop on digital illustration. Standing before a room of strangers, sharing her technical knowledge and creative process, she felt the familiar anxiety but pushed through it, drawing strength from her recent experiences. After class, a young woman approached her. "Your work is amazing. The way you use color and form to express emotion, it's like you're translating feelings directly into visual language." The genuine appreciation for her artistic voice, with no mention of her appearance, was refreshing. Mia realized that when she allowed her talent to take center stage, Her body receded from focus, not because it disappeared, but because it simply wasn't the most interesting thing about her. 5 weeks before the exhibition, Mia received another email from the Halston. They wanted her to give a brief talk about her Reflections series on opening night. Her immediate instinct was to decline, to preserve the anonymity that had protected her for so long. But as she reached to type her refusal, she caught her reflection in her computer screen. Not a full image, just a suggestion of her features. Behind that reflection was her artwork, bold and uncompromising. "Yes," she typed instead, "I would be honored to speak about my work." That night she called her mother, bracing herself for the usual subtle criticism. But this time, when her mother began with, "Have you lost weight? You sound different," Mia didn't deflect or absorb the comment. "Mum, I'm going to be featured in an art exhibition at the Halston Gallery. I'm giving a talk about my work on opening night." The pride in her voice must have been evident, because her mother's tone shifted. "Mia, that's wonderful. Your father and I will be there." As she hung up, Mia realized she hadn't mentioned weight, diets, or appearance once during their conversation, a first in recent memory. The exhibition was no longer just a professional opportunity or a personal challenge. It was becoming a declaration of her right to exist fully in the world, to take up space, to be seen on her own terms. The journey wasn't about transformation for the sake of others' approval, but about reclaiming the power she had given away with each apology for her existence. Chapter 3. The morning of the artist's preview at the Halston Gallery, exactly 1 week before the public opening, Mia stood in front of her bedroom mirror. She'd selected her outfit carefully, a flowing crimson dress with architectural details that complemented her curves rather than hiding them, paired with handcrafted silver earrings from a local artisan. For the first time in years, she wasn't trying to disappear. The past 6 weeks had changed her in ways both subtle and profound. Her body had begun to transform, not drastically, but noticeably. She'd lost some weight through her consistent morning walks that had gradually evolved into jogs, and through cooking nourishing meals at home instead of relying on emotional eating and takeout. But the greater transformation was internal. The shame that had been her constant companion for as long as she could remember had begun to loosen its grip. Mia arrived at the gallery an hour early, wanting time to see her work in the space before others arrived. Claire, the curator, greeted her warmly. "Your pieces have created quite a buzz among our board members," she said, leading Mia to the section where her Reflections series was displayed. "The way you've captured the distortion between self-perception and reality, it's powerful." Seeing her digital illustrations professionally mounted and lit in the pristine gallery space made them new again, even to their creator. Each piece featured a female figure viewed through different reflective surfaces, distorted, fragmented, sometimes barely recognizable, while the background revealed the subject's true form, often stronger and more vibrant than the reflection suggested. "This is my favorite," Claire said, stopping before the centerpiece, a triptych titled Emergence. It showed a woman's progression as she moved from viewing herself in a carnival mirror that grotesquely exaggerated her size to a standard mirror that showed her accurate reflection, to finally stepping away from mirrors entirely, facing the viewer directly with clear eyes and an unfiltered gaze. "It's autobiographical," Mia admitted, the words coming more easily than she expected. "A work in progress." As other artists and gallery staff began to arrive, Mia felt the familiar flutter of anxiety, but it no longer overwhelmed her. She engaged in conversations about technique and inspiration, discovering a genuine enjoyment in discussing her creative process. When questions turned personal about the emotions behind her work, she answered honestly, without the self-deprecation that had once been her reflex. "Your experience resonates with so many people," said an older woman artist whose delicate watercolors hung in an adjacent space. "We all have distorted mirrors in our minds. You've just made them visible." Marcus from the agency arrived with several colleagues. including the creative director from Brennan and Walsh, whose interest in Mia's work sent a surge of professional excitement through her. But it was the arrival of her parents that triggered her strongest emotional response. Her mother approached the emergence triptych, studying it with an expression Mia couldn't quite read. "Is this how you've seen yourself?" she finally asked, her voice uncharacteristically small. "For a long time, yes," Mia answered, standing tall beside her work. Her mother's eyes welled with tears. "I never knew. I thought I was helping, always pushing you to be healthier. I didn't realize I was contributing to the distortion." The acknowledgement was unexpected, a crack in the foundation of their complicated relationship. Mia placed her hand on her mother's shoulder, feeling a new tenderness toward the woman who had unintentionally deepened her wounds while trying to spare her pain. "I'm starting to see more clearly now," Mia said. "Both of us are." The preview ended with Claire announcing the exhibition schedule, including Mia's artist talk the following week. As the attendees dispersed, Zoe pulled Mia aside. "There's someone you should meet," she said, introducing a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile. "This is Dylan. He runs the art therapy program at Children's Memorial. He's interested in bringing you in as a guest artist." The conversation with Dylan flowed naturally, centered on art's power to heal and transform, territory where Mia felt increasingly confident. They exchanged contact information with plans to discuss the program further over coffee. "You're glowing," Zoe observed after Dylan left, "and it has nothing to do with weight loss." It was true. The changes in Mia's body were real, but secondary to the shift in her energy. She stood differently, spoke differently, engaged with the world differently. The woman who had once tried to fold herself into invisibility now commanded attention through the force of her presence rather than the size of her body. The week leading up to the public opening brought new challenges and opportunities. A local arts magazine requested an interview, which Mia conducted in her studio, surrounded by works in progress. The reporter asked thoughtful questions about her artistic influences and techniques, but also about the emotional landscape of her work. "Many artists use their work to process personal struggles," the reporter noted. "Has creating the Reflections series been therapeutic for you?" "It's been essential," Mia replied. "Art gave me a language for feelings I couldn't express any other way. It also showed me a version of myself I had lost sight of. Someone powerful, with something meaningful to contribute." The day before the exhibition opening, Mia received an unexpected email from a high school classmate who had seen the preview coverage in the arts magazine. "I still remember the illustrations you did for our literary magazine. Even then, your work had such emotional depth. I'm glad the world is finally seeing what I saw back then." The message unlocked memories of a time before shame had become her primary filter, when creating art had been pure joy, untainted by self-consciousness. She'd been drawing since she could hold a pencil, expressing herself visually long before she had the words to articulate her feelings. Somewhere along the way, as her body changed and the world's response to it grew colder, she had separated the artist from the woman, as if her talent existed independently from her physical self. That evening, Mia worked late in her home studio, completing a new piece inspired by her recent experiences. Unlike the Reflections series, this new work showed a woman stepping fully into a spotlight, her shadow cast behind her, substantial, inseparable, but no longer defining her. It wasn't ready for public viewing yet, but it represented the next chapter in her artistic and personal evolution. Opening night arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. The gallery was transformed by ambient lighting and the buzz of conversation as Chicago's art community and the general public mingled through the space. Mia, dressed in a custom-designed jumpsuit from a plus-size boutique that celebrated rather than concealed her figure, moved through the crowd with growing confidence. An hour into the event, Claire clinked a glass to gather everyone's attention. "We're privileged tonight to hear from Mia Thompson, whose Reflections series has already generated significant conversation. Mia will share some insights into her creative process and the themes explored in her work. And as Mia took her position near her displayed pieces, she surveyed the crowd. Faces turned expectantly toward her, including her parents, Zoe, Dylan, colleagues and strangers drawn by her art. The moment she had feared for so long had arrived. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every eye upon her, but also the strength of her own voice waiting to be heard. "Thank you for coming tonight," she began, her voice clear and steady. The journey that led to these pieces began with a simple question. What happens when we can no longer recognize ourselves in our own reflection? As she spoke about distortion, perception, and the reclamation of authentic identity, Mia felt a profound alignment between her words, her art, and her being. She was no longer hiding behind her work or apologizing for her presence. She was fully embodying the truth she had been expressing through her art all along. That worth isn't determined by appearance, that power comes from authenticity, and that visibility requires courage but offers freedom. The applause that followed her talk felt like a current of energy, affirming not just her artistic vision, but her right to stand proudly in her own story. As attendees approached to share their responses to her work, Mia realized that the exhibition had become more than a professional milestone. It was a demarcation line between who she had been and who she was becoming. Later, as the crowd thinned, Dylan found her near the gallery entrance. "Your talk was incredible," he said. "The kids in our program would benefit so much from hearing your perspective on art as a tool for self-reclamation." As they discussed potential workshops, Mia felt a new door opening, an opportunity to help others find their voice through art, just as she had found hers. The woman who had once limited her professional interactions to avoid being seen was now actively seeking new ways to connect and contribute. The exhibition's success extended beyond the opening night. Sales exceeded the gallery's expectations, and reviews highlighted the emotional resonance and technical skill of Mia's work. The creative director from Brennan and Walsh offered her a freelance project with potential for ongoing collaboration, and 3 other galleries expressed interest in featuring her future work. But the most meaningful outcome wasn't professional recognition or financial success. It was the profound shift in how Mia moved through the world, with her head high, her voice clear, and her presence unapologetic. The journey wasn't complete. There were still difficult days when old insecurities surfaced. But she no longer allowed those moments to define her or limit her engagement with life. The exhibition became both culmination and catalyst, the end of her hiding and the beginning of her claiming the space, literally and figuratively, that she deserved in the world. Bonders, Chapter 4. 8 months after the Halston exhibition, Mia sat in the green room of a local television studio, waiting to be called for her segment on Chicago Creates, a weekly program featuring the city's artists and innovators. Her Reflection series had evolved into a multimedia project combining digital art, photography, and interactive elements that invited viewers to explore their own relationship with self-image. The studio assistant poked her head in. "5 minutes, Ms. Thompson." Mia nodded, taking a moment to center herself. Public speaking no longer triggered the panic it once had, though a healthy flutter of anticipation still preceded each appearance. She smoothed the fabric of her emerald green dress, a custom piece from a local designer who specialized in creating fashion for bodies of all sizes. At 215 pounds, Mia had lost significant weight since beginning her wellness journey, but her focus had shifted from the numbers on the scale to how she felt in her body. Strong, capable, increasingly comfortable. The past months had brought unexpected opportunities and challenges. The art therapy program with Dylan had evolved into a regular workshop series at Children's Memorial, where Mia guided young patients through creative exercises designed to help them process their hospital experiences and reconnect with their sense of self beyond their illnesses. "We're ready for you," the assistant announced, leading Mia to the set where the host, Amara Okafor, waited with a warm smile. Today we're joined by Mia Thompson, whose groundbreaking Reflections exhibition has expanded into the Beyond Mirrors project, currently touring community centers throughout Chicago, Amara began after the introduction. Mia, your work explores the relationship between self-perception and reality. What inspired this focus? The camera's red light blinked, but Mia no longer felt the urge to shrink from its gaze. We all have internal mirrors that distort how we see ourselves, she explained. For me, that distortion was centered around body size and worth. I believed I needed to be smaller to deserve visibility. Art became my way of confronting that lie and eventually dismantling it. Your personal journey has become as well known as your artwork, Amara noted. You've lost weight while simultaneously advocating for body acceptance. Some might see that as contradictory. It was a question Mia had encountered frequently, one that once would have flustered her. Now she leaned into the complexity of her experience. Health and acceptance aren't mutually exclusive, she responded. My weight loss was a side effect of healing my relationship with my body, not the goal itself. I move my body because it feels good to be strong. I nourish myself because I deserve care, but my worth isn't tied to my size, whether at 270 pounds or 215 pounds. That's the message at the heart of Beyond Mirrors, that we are all worthy of taking up space exactly as we are. The interview continued, touching on Mia's artistic techniques and the community response to her workshops. As the segment concluded, Amara mentioned Mia's upcoming TED Talk on art as a tool for personal and social transformation. That's still surreal to me, Mia admitted with a genuine laugh. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be standing on a red circle talking to hundreds of people about my journey, I would have thought you were describing my worst nightmare. After the interview, Mia checked her phone to find a message from Zoe. You killed it! Watching from the agency with everyone. Proud friend moment. The agency had undergone its own transformation. Marcus had promoted Mia to Associate Creative Director, a position that leveraged both her design skills and her newfound ability to present ideas with conviction. Her client presentations, once a source of anxiety, had become opportunities to advocate passionately for concepts she believed in. Driving home, Mia reflected on the unexpected turns her life had taken since that moment 8 months ago, when Zoe had submitted her name to the Halston. The exhibition had been a professional catalyst, certainly, but the more profound change had been internal, the gradual reclamation of her voice, her confidence, and her joy. Her apartment, once a fortress against the world, had evolved alongside her. The dark, concealing curtains had been replaced with sheer fabrics that welcomed natural light. The walls now featured not only her own artwork, but photographs of Mia with friends at exhibitions, teaching workshops, visual evidence of a life fully engaged. That evening, as she prepared for a dinner gathering she was hosting, Mia moved with ease around her kitchen. Cooking had become a creative outlet and a form of self-care rather than a battleground of restriction and indulgence. She chopped colorful vegetables for a roasted salad, the rhythmic motion meditative. The doorbell rang, announcing the first arrival. Dylan stood at the threshold, a bottle of wine in one hand and a small wrapped package in the other. Their relationship had evolved gradually from professional collaboration to friendship and recently to something more. Tentative explorations of romantic connection built on mutual respect and genuine appreciation for each other's work and character. For the hostess, he said, handing her the wine, and this is just because it made me think of you. He offered the small package with a shy smile that still made Mia's heart skip. Inside was a hand-bound journal, its cover embossed with a simple but powerful image, a mirror reflecting not a person's outer appearance, but a light emanating from within. It's beautiful, she said, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. Perfect timing, too. I've been jotting notes for the TED Talk everywhere, receipts, my phone, random scraps of paper. You'll be amazing. Dylan assured her, his confidence in her abilities unwavering since they'd met. Your story needs to be heard. As other guests arrived, Zoe and her husband, colleagues from the agency, artist friends from the community center, Mia's apartment filled with conversation and laughter. These gatherings, once unthinkable due to her social anxiety and fear of judgment, had become monthly traditions, a chosen family of creative, supportive individuals who valued Mia for her mind, her talent, and her increasingly authentic presence. During dinner, the conversation turned to an upcoming charity event, a fashion show featuring designs for diverse body types, with proceeds benefiting body image programs for teens. "They need models," said Janelle, a photographer friend. "People who represent different sizes, ages, backgrounds. You'd be perfect, Mia." The old Mia would have dismissed the suggestion immediately, horrified at the thought of walking a runway with all eyes on her body. The new Mia paused, considering. "You know what? I think I would actually enjoy that," she said, surprising herself with the realization. Teenage Mia could have used seeing someone who looked like me owning their presence that way. Later, after the guests had departed and she was tidying up with Dylan's help, Mia found herself reflecting on the seemingly disparate elements of her current life: the art therapy program, her evolving creative work, the speaking engagements, and now potentially modeling. The common thread wasn't weight loss or transformation in the conventional sense. It was visibility, the willingness to be seen, fully and authentically. "What are you thinking about?" Dylan asked, noticing her momentary abstraction as she rinsed plates. "How strange life is," she replied. "A year ago, my biggest fear was being noticed. Now my work is literally about being seen, helping others see themselves more clearly, and allowing myself to be visible in the process." "That's the most powerful kind of leadership," Dylan observed, leading from a place of shared vulnerability. The following week brought another milestone, a visit from her parents. Their relationship had been evolving gradually since the exhibition opening, with her mother making genuine efforts to connect without focusing on appearance. They had begun having conversations about family patterns and unspoken expectations, painful at times but necessary for healing. Mia took them to her current exhibition at the Southside Community Arts Center, where her Beyond Mirrors installation invited participants to write messages on mirror fragments, transforming instruments of self-criticism into a collaborative mosaic of affirmation and truth. "I had no idea," her father said quietly as they observed visitors engaging with the piece. "All those years we thought we were motivating you, pushing you toward success. We didn't understand what you were really going through. I didn't have the words to tell you," Mia acknowledged. "Art gave me those words." That evening, preparing for bed, Mia stood before her bedroom mirror, not with the critical gaze that had once defined these moments, but with a gentler, more nuanced awareness. Her body had changed, yes, but more significantly, so had her perception of it. The reflection looking back at her was neither enemy nor stranger, but simply one aspect of a complex, evolving self. She opened Dylan's journal gift, turning to the first blank page. Tomorrow she would begin organizing her thoughts for the TED Talk, her opportunity to share with a wider audience the insights that had transformed her relationship with herself and her art. But tonight, she simply wanted to capture this moment of quiet recognition. "I am more than my reflection," she wrote. "More than the space I occupy or the weight I carry. I am the stories I tell, the connections I nurture, the art I create, and the love I give. My power was never hidden in a before or waiting in an after. It was always here, waiting for me to claim it." She closed the journal, placed it on her nightstand, and turned out the light. In the darkness, free from the tyranny of mirrors and measurements, Mia felt the contours of her new reality. Not a finished transformation with a neat before and after narrative, but an ongoing journey of creation and discovery. The weight of shame had been replaced by something lighter, yet stronger, the quiet confidence of a woman who had learned that true power comes not from conforming to external expectations, but from the courage to be fully, visibly, unapologetically herself.